Hi, Eric Rhodes from Plein Air and Fine Art Connoisseur magazines. If you've got cabin fever, the best way to overcome it is to distract yourself and to learn and to grow, and we all need to grow as artists and get better. We've got a great video for you today, how to paint flowers in the studio with the great floral painter, Kathy Anderson.
Hi, I'm Kathy Anderson. Today we're going to do a still life painting that I've set up in the studio, and I can't wait to get started. I'm very excited about it and to share what I know with everybody. So let's get started. I'd like to start off by telling you a little bit about the way I work and the materials that I use. Most of my paints are Rembrandts and Winsor Newton. I have a lot of colors put out here. I don't need all of these colors, but every time I find a color that I love, I usually just keep it on my palette. So basically, my basic colors would be Viridian, Cobalt Blue, Ultramarine, Transparent Oxide Red, Terra Rosa, and I have two alizarans here, but it's only my preference because one of them is a permanent one and one of them is not. Then a cad orange and a cad red. The scarlet I have, but I don't really need it, but it's a convenience. Cad yellow deep, cad yellow pale, and a cad lemon. Yellow ochre, pale, excuse me. And this is a transparent gold ochre that also I don't use that often, but I put it out. Transparent oxide brown, which is actually the color that I use probably the most for everything. This is a phthalo. It sounds like I use a lot of paint, but I have them out if I even want a little spot of it one time. This is a phthalo green blue, which I use very rarely when I want a really rich dark mixed with my browns. Venetian red, and these two colors I never have off my palette. This is permanent rose, and this is magenta. Beautiful colors. The permanent rose, well actually I'll talk about the few piles of pre-mixed colors that I use. And the last is still de grain yellow, which is a very, very transparent yellow. I have 4 little piles here of pre-mixed colors that I use a lot, so that I don't mix them completely. As you can see, there's a lot of the white and the pinks showing through, and these aren't even mixed at all. But with these two purpley colors, I use a lot of them to make grays. This one is cobalt and permanent rose with white. This is ultramarine with a little bit of alizarin and white. So I just keep those on the side, and then this is the 2 piles of Viridian, one with cad yellow deep, one with cad yellow pale. So that's basically what I almost always have on my palette. This, by the way, is an open box, which I take everywhere with me. I have 2 sizes. This one is the 12-16, and I have the 11-14 when I go on plein air trips. I use that. And all my brushes are rosemary brushes, all of them. And I love everything. I use the mongoose, I use the ivories, I'll be pulling them all out, you'll see, but they're all rosemary brushes. This is my panel, the panels that I make when I go on plein air trips, and when I travel, it's Russian Baltic birch plywood. I seal the surface with rabbit skin glue, and then I use Winsor Newton oil primer, which comes in a quart. I usually put 2 coats and I sand in between. Also, sometimes I actually put my linen canvas on here with an adhesive, and I work with the linen on the board. But I'm starting to really love this. It's a very slick surface. You have to really like this very slick surface, but I love the way it reacts. This is my still life setup that I did this morning because for me, when I set up a still life, it can take me hours because it's the most important part of the planning stage for me. It's my blueprint. I might not follow it completely. Once I start painting, I can make alterations. Well, first of all, I want to tell you a couple of little tricks. For example, this glass flower tubes from the nurse that you can buy in a florist, rather. so that I can place things wherever I want them, move them around. I have one little flower here. Then I take the potted plants, I'll take them out of their little plastic containers, or if you buy the 6 packs of flowers, I take them out so that I can move them around. All these little petals that fall off are important to me, wherever they might fall. But I took probably over an hour to set this up this morning, and I could probably work on it even more. I didn't want to start doing that on camera because it takes a very long time. But one thing I do want to say is I had this set up without these little orange pansies in it. And I was looking at it, and I thought, it's really beautiful, and red and white is actually one of my favorite things to paint. But I just felt like it needed just something else to make like a little, something like, oh, look, isn't that exciting? Something is orange in there instead. So I stuck that in. Of course, now I took it out, and it's not going to fall in the same place, and I had it in exactly the place I wanted it to. But I can stand here and move this flower like this. And in fact, you know what? Now I'm really upset because I realize I loved the way these flowers were going down. It was creating the movement of the circle, and now it's not doing that anymore. So now I have to see if I can figure out if I can make it. No, that's good. Okay. So, but I also loved the orange against the red. And now I'm having trouble getting that set up like that again. So, you might have a tendency to say, oh, well, that's good enough. But it's never good enough. I'll just say for sure it's never good enough, because whenever you say that and you think you're going to figure it out later, you're just setting yourself up for a problem, because you should work everything out before your brush ever touches the canvas. So now this fell over. And now it's going to take me the hour that I took this morning to get it back in the right place again. But I'm not going to give up until I get it where I want it. What I want is some orange next to the red. That's good. And I want those flowers coming down. I think I almost got it. There, I almost got it. So when I set this up, I'm looking like I love this white one in there because it's all the way in the back, but it's got a little hint of light on it. I have some more of these little tiny white ones over here. But for me, I never like what you'd call a florist bouquet, because, which is very even and spaces between. That never appeals to me. I usually like big areas. Like I love this big area. It's just green, and that's to me that makes this more of a focal point for me. Here's something that I did that I've done a couple of times that I thank God caught it before I almost did it again. Pansies, which are just about my favorite flower to paint, can sometimes just be a round circle when they're in perfect like this. Like these have interesting ways that they're split. Their petals here are split. This petal's going back. This one is a round circle, and I started a painting the other day with one like that, and it just looked awful. It's just I kept and then I kept trying to cut one edge of it by making a leaf of the same value next to it, and I wound up having to scrape the whole pansy out and start over again. So I was almost about to do the same thing here, but this time I solved it by putting this little geranium in front of it. And by the way, this geranium is also cut off and put in a little glass tube. You should never start a painting until you're so excited about it. For me, I have to, like I said, spend so much time with the still life, and I have to be so excited. And that's why I put the orange flowers in there, because I loved what I had here, but all of a sudden it was like, it needed that extra little something, and now I'm so excited I can hardly stand it. I can't wait to start painting. So, one thing I do want to say is that I'm lucky enough to be one of the Putney painters and be able to call Richard Schmidt and Nancy Guzik very, very close friends. And Nancy always loves to tell a story about Richard when he was approaching a painting, and she said, "What are you thinking?" And he said, "Success." So I remember that she said that, and that's what I'm going to say right now, success. this painting is going to be so beautiful. Except I see something that's bothering me, unfortunately, so I'm going to have to fix it. So, and I'll explain what's bothering me. I see spaces here, space, 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 and they're too separated, and I have to get them together more. And I think, actually, I have more flowers down here, because I have to fill the space up, and I could start moving things around, but I think I can do it easier like this if I can get it right in the right place. I want this mass together here. Oh, yes. Okay. Now I see it. See this beautiful curve here? I love the way this one's going over here. A little bit different. I'm trying to solve every single thing in my head that I know I have done wrong in the past or could go wrong. Because, and like I said before, even though you set this up here so carefully that you think everything is perfect, once I get on here, I'm still going to change it if I don't like what's going on. I'm still going to change it. What I'm a little nervous about is this line here. I don't think that's going to be very pleasing. So I'd like to see something coming over here. So I'll take maybe a leaf from back here. I love having little petals all over the place. Whoops, a little addition of color there. You know, just something coming over, but it has to come over in just the right place. Actually, I'm going to take a little bit more. I could use actually just a piece. That's better, except I don't want them to, I didn't want one side by side like that. I like it better when it's just overlapping. Okay, this is perfect, because now, see, now I've got this movement going here. I've got this coming down this way. The petals will bring you around. I love this hole in here. Love that hole. Love this hole here. These dark. So I can see this dark going through here. You're really only going to get one session with it to stay just as it is. So I always take a photo. I always work from life, but I always take a photo, and I usually wind up finishing. So I'm going to take a good photo. It also it will remind me of what it was that got me excited if it's all gone tomorrow. Flowers, even during one session, the pansies will move, they'll change. So what I'll try to do is get to the ones that I think are the most beautiful shapes. Like for me right now, this one is a beautiful shape, the way the petal is going back. So that would be important. This one I can reset that up again, or you know, these little dianthus, they'll stay as they are. The geranium will stay as it is. But I have to first get my main blueprint. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is tone my canvas. And whenever I do a garden painting, if I play a plein air outside, or I'm doing this sort of a thing where it's all earth tones underneath, I almost always tone the canvas with green and brown. So I'm going to use transparent oxide red, which is a brown, and viridian. Got a little yellow in there. I don't want that yellow there yet. And I'm going to take by the way, I use odorless Gamsol, and I have two containers. This one is my dirtier one, and this is my cleaner one. This is my medium that I don't use. I cover it because it's real distilled turpentine. It's the Myers medium, which is 5 parts distilled turpentine, triple rectified turpentine, it's called. 1 part Daymar varnish and 1 part stand oil. So it smells, so I just put the cover over it. And I don't use it all the time anyway. So one of the things with the wash is I want to make a real nice big soupy puddle. just with the Gamsol. This is a very slick surface, as I said before. Oops. The whole thing, I'm covering the entire canvas because it's such a beautiful surface that I can pull right off where I want. And this gives me so much freedom. I'm not drawing anything yet. In fact, I'm not going to draw anything for quite a while. One of the things that is so important to me is to keep a very, very clean palette, not to let my paints get contaminated. But something I tell my students all the time, but I always have to add that I have so many really good artist friends that have what I consider a palette I couldn't even work on. It looks like a disaster to me. And they're magnificent painters. I don't know how they do it, but I certainly can't do it. I have to keep everything really clean. Something I really learned from painting with Richard Schmidt. So like just this gets me like, I'm so excited looking at this color. It's such a beautiful color. I always keep it as a really nice warm tone because inside where the dirt is, the inside of the plant, it's always warm no matter what the light is. The innermost part is always going to be nice and warm. So look at this beautiful color. So beautiful. I'm going to very, very loosely think of where's my dance? Oh, what do I love about this? Well, let's see. Well, first of all, I know like I said, that pot, I have to make sure I'm going to get parts of these pots in. So I'm not going to draw, I'm just going to sort of go like this. And then I think, okay, now be careful, where are you going to have a problem? What's going to happen over here? But because I'm not drawing anything, that pansy, this white pansy here is off to the side. I'm so conscious of of placements of things. This pansy, the edge of it is lined up with the middle of that pot over here. So I'm thinking about that, and then I'm thinking those little orange ones. They're going up this way. Right away I can see I'm going to have a problem, so I'm going to start over again. I see that I'm going to have a big area here that's not going to be that pleasing, but not that far over, just a little bit. But see, I have nothing invested in this except a wash, so I'm not worried about it. So I'm going to put the pot over, this pot will be over a little further, and I might want it a little lower. So basically, I'm thinking with my brush. So let's see, this pansy then would start here, and then this pot might be here. So if I do that, and then these little orange ones are here, and then there's going to be a red one all the way over here. Oh God, I'm getting really excited. This is red here, with these going over here. And then this dance over here of the white. Just want to see, I don't want it to wind up all over here. So I think I'm going to have to come over even further, probably. Yeah, I think I have to come over a little further, so here. So I'll just take this off here. So the white, so you can see I'm not drawing anything. The white is going to be like this, then it's going to come up like this, and then a little bit of orange here, and I'm going to put that little red one, but I'm conscious, immediately thinking to myself, if that red one is here, I better not put that one here, because that's not going to look very good. So I love it when it's like way up here. It's going to make it way, way up there. And the white will be here. And for me, I suddenly now see, okay. Now this looks like nothing to anyone, I'm sure. Actually, it looks like nothing to me too, just to be clear. But hopefully it's going to start looking like something. Okay, here we go. So if I think that's my placement, let me just think for a minute. So I can see what's going on now. Here's another thing I'm realizing. If this is way up here, I'm going to have a bottom here, of course. I didn't set anything up on the bottom here, and I'm going to pretend it's going to be like just dirt outside. But it's not that pretty to have all that space down there, so I'm really trying to think of everything. If this little pot is here, how big is that pot? Not that it really matters. It's not quite as big as this, a little smaller. I could still come over here a little further. Just put that a little. This is, I'm looking for, where is it really darks? I will say that this surface is hard to work on when it's wet, when you first start. It's hard because you pick up really fast. So usually for one-shot paintings, like if I go on a plein air trip, I usually go back to my location more than once anyway. But for that second day, and it'll dry pretty fast on this, even though I don't use any dryer. But that's the second time you go on this board, it is like glass, and it's so beautiful. The color is so clear, and it's just so beautiful. So, okay, I think I'm good. I think I'm going to have this one here, and these little white ones are going to come here, and the red one's going to be here. And then it's going to go like up, and then a little orange one's here, and these are over here. Okay. I think the geranium is going to be here. So I'm going to I can get right down to the whitest white of this canvas. And I'm going to want it to be nice and big and beautiful right here. So I'm going to pull that out right there. This is also a way that I can look at my design, once again, with no commitment to any kind of drawing that's, oh, look at that little orange one. Can't quite see it, but actually I like the way it's laying here. And this one I wish I could see more, but I can't plan everything, because if I start trying to move these around, I'm going to knock something over, and then it's going to be a disaster. So let's see. Let's go this way. And then, see, I love these orange ones. I'm thinking about them this way. That little white dianthus right here, very, very cute. So that will go, I love that little spot of light there. And this pansy here, here's the top of this. Once again, really trying to think that don't make this even with this. You know, it's down a little bit. You can't do everything. By the way, this is not a rosemary brush, in case anybody's wondering. I'm looking at this. This is just a brush. It's an old bristle brush that I draw with, because I don't want to scrub with my rosemary brushes. So I didn't want anybody, poor Rosemary, if you're watching, this is not your brush. So, okay, so this pansy here, it's a little bit more in the shadow, so I don't really have to get it completely white. I don't have to get down, because actually your wash will also, the color of your wash is really important. I almost always use a brown-green when I do a garden piece, but certainly I use different color washes for different things. And your wash, you can utilize your wash as part of your backgrounds if you're doing more, still life with more objects in it, with a cloth that's really pretty. And so your wash is a very important tool for you to make sure you get the color that you really want. Now, it's not just any old thing in a wash. So now I know this geranium is going to go up here. And I don't have to get that off because that's kind of in the shadow. What have I got here? This little orange one. I've got, oh, look at the light on that. I love these little dianthus back here. And there's a nice little clump of, just to remind me. The photo, as I said, I'll use the photo to remind me of certain drawing elements. The color is never there with the photo. The temperature is not there with the photo. I'm dipping into the Gamsol, by the way. This is what I'm doing here. So a little white here, and then this little one here. Okay. So now here I am, like I'm going around, I'm coming up and around, and here, and now we're into the more important part. So this pansy right here, let's see, it's actually just about touching this geranium. So this one I'm actually going to try to draw a little better. Not draw, but just with my paper towel. And see that petal that I loved so much? It's already not doing what it was doing before. I don't think I can do anything about that. No, it's already fallen over. So that's something that if I finish the painting in my studio, I would go back and, I may go back and try to put that in, but for now I'm not going to worry about that. So that pansy's there. Get it even cleaner. By the way, this is something that sounds elementary, but when you dip in to get your canvas white, you have to keep moving your finger. You only get one chance to make it clean. You have to keep getting a cleaner piece of paper towel, because I've seen students dip in and just keep going and going, and really all you're doing is making it dirty again. But this is the way I work. This is, for me, there are obviously artists a la prima that will go right on top of this and make beautiful color. But this is what I do. Anyway, this really helps me because I don't have to worry about the drawing again until later. This is going to tell me the design, because I've got a nice darker wash here. So then I've got, it's not that I have to do exactly what's there, sometimes I just pick and choose the pieces that I really like. So right now I see this dianthus is going this way. This is another way to create a natural garden piece, that all the flowers aren't looking at you. This one I only see from the top. This one I see from this side. This one is almost full at me. This one is tipped the other way. That's the way that you keep it looking really natural. If they're all looking straight at you, so I want to make sure I keep this clump. And you'll see that nice little clump of white here. And this is dancing down there. Oh yeah, and then there's this little geranium here. And what's my lightest light is pretty much this geranium right here is my lightest. And I love the way that's going around like this, coming all the way around here like this, with this pansy behind it. So even though that's not a pleasing shape, that pansy, because it's perfect, but because it's behind the geranium, you're not going to really see that. And I always like to tell this story because I'm so excited right now because things are coming into the right place. It's like, oh, thank you. It's all coming into the right place. But when I first started painting from life, I remember trying to set up still lifes, and I can remember crying because I could not get the still life to come on the canvas. I would set up this intricate still life, and then I'd start trying to draw it, and I'd get to the bottom, and I had no more canvas. And I would do it over and over and over, and same with painting plein air, painting outside. How do you get what you're looking at out there into a piece of canvas? And it's very, very hard. But I can tell you that it was so hard for me. I remember crying, and the fact that I can do it almost all the time now, first shot. Of course, watch it not come out, right? No. But it's perseverance. So you have to just keep trying and trying and trying and wanting it so badly, wanting to do it so badly that you never give up until you'll get it. Anyone can learn to do it. After a while, it just works. So now, those orange pansies are up here somewhere. 2 of those up here. Of course, now I'm real bottom heavy here. But I don't care about all that much, because first of all, I love to paint leaves too, besides just the flowers, and there's nothing wrong with the leaves being just as beautiful as the flowers, so you don't need to, oh my God, this is coming along really good. Now those orange, did I get this? This is this pansy over here. So this pot, and then there's this one. I'm going to move, this one that's falling here, which I love, is right underneath the other one, so I'm actually going to move that over. I don't have to move it there. But I don't want it right underneath. In fact, this will give me a chance to get over on this side a little bit. Even though, as I said, I'm setting this up as absolutely close as I want to paint it, because that's really important. Once I get to the canvas, if I see something that isn't quite right, I'm not going to start fussing and trying to move this flower over there. All of a sudden now, which I didn't notice before, that it's right underneath there. So that's why I'm moving it on my canvas. So I don't have to move it there. You paint what you see, but you don't really have to paint every single thing that you see. You have to also use your judgment. But I just noticed what I do like. I like the spacing, and I didn't have that. I lost that spacing because I was talking so much. So I'll bring that down here. Okay, and then I still have the opportunity to have these little, I don't know why I'm shaking here a little bit. I have the opportunity to have these little white ones coming off to the side here. Love this one because it's tilting, this petal is tilting over that, and this one's going in the other direction in the shadow. All of those things are the things that make it look so natural. And maybe I'll have them. And of course, when I'm all done with this, or practically done with it, it doesn't mean that I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, well, I need something here, or I need something there, and then I can just put it in. You know, this is as close as I can get to the perfect blueprint that is in my head. What I'm the most excited about this painting is the way this movement is going on. I love that. That's what's got me excited about this painting. Now I see I don't like where that is. I'm going to move that over. I think I'll put it over here. Take it off just. Maybe it goes over here. Or maybe I don't know where it goes until I actually start getting some more information here. And I might move it again. But for now, I think I might like it there. And I might like it going off. So now I'm just going to step back for a minute and see if I like my design. These could have been a little closer down, but instead of moving them, because then I will have way too much space up here, I think what I'll do is I'll just add another one of the little white flowers here. So I can already see that I'm going to want to do that. And then that pansy that's way in the back there, I just noticed a little bud here. See, I want to get this in because if I was home, when I came back the next morning, this wouldn't look like this. It would be close. But some of the things I set up at home are so crazy. One time I set up a bucket, a giant sheetrock bucket with cherry tree branches, giant branches that in New York City, I got them in the flower district. And I had them in my studio probably for a month, and they were dying, and my studio smelled like a swamp, and they were dropping flowers. By the time I finished the painting, there weren't even any flowers on them anymore. They were just branches, but actually the branches, I really needed the branches because they were a really important part of the painting for me. So that flower in the back there would never be there tomorrow because it's already, it's already not dying, but it's already not, I don't know what I'm saying. But forget that part. It won't be there tomorrow. Okay, so now I need to stand in front because I have a tendency to get my ellipses a little crooked. I want this to, so I just want to know kind of where I'm going with this. Well, here I am doing this with this rosemary brush, which I said I wasn't going to, but actually, I'm thinking about the fact that I like the fact that this flower is on the outside of the pot, but I don't know that it matters. If I put it on if I leave it there and I put it on the inside, then the pot is much smaller. Actually, I think I like the pot smaller. Yeah, so it doesn't matter at all that I'm doing the exact pot that's there. It's really not important. What I love these kinds of clay pots, the earth colors of them. So I'm just kind of thinking about and this pot was way lower over here. So this pot might go right off the page, canvas rather. So this is actually going to be behind it. So this will be down here. And then we've got that pansy there. So now I'm just going to step back here for 1 second and see if anything jumps out at me at the design that I don't like. What I'm looking at is, I love this V down here. That's beautiful. This is beautiful. There's going to be some, oh, I forgot these little petals. See, I just want to remind myself, this is going to be like so important. This little petal here, and these little petals down here, see where they are, they're going to be kind of important. So I'm just trying to I just have to remind myself, it's something I might not even notice from the photograph. This is a possible problem right here, I think. But I really actually, at the moment, don't know how to solve it. So I think, oh, well, I can see one reason I didn't solve it, because I didn't finish what I was doing. I'm so sorry. Okay, I got a little distracted, and there was one more flower here, and that might do it, because then the leaves are going to come in between, and here this beautiful stem here. Oh my God, look at this, how beautiful this is. See, this is something I really learned from Richard about the stems. They're so important. People forget about the stems, or they just go boop, 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 and the stems are, but they're so important. They're such a tool for your direction. You know, like that's going this way, so then if this one's going this way, then I'm going to be really careful that this one is going, you know, not exactly at the same angle so that it's a V. It will be slightly off, you know, and another one might be going in a different direction if I had a stem up there. But I'm just really, really conscious of, oh, and all of a sudden I notice that, oops. Yeah, this geranium is actually coming forward, I just noticed. So that would be really pretty to show that it's coming forward. And then this one is coming here. Oh my God, that's really so beautiful. Look at that, so beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is put in where my darks are going to be. And that's going to give me also my pattern and beautiful path coming through. So I'm going to take a nice soft, this is one of my favorite brushes, this is Series 77. These are Sables. And I'll take a little bit smaller one. Because as I said, this is very slick canvas, although it dries pretty fast because of that. So I am going to take some more brown and green. In fact, I think I'll use a little transparent oxide brown and a little Viridian. And I'm just looking for my darkest darks right now, and I see right here, this is for sure. So I'm just going to put that in. What's that? I forgot what, oh, that's a petal. Oh, yes. Okay. I'm going to put that in. I'm going to try to make sure I'm going to try to keep it straight from the beginning. I'm not using any medium at all, just using the brown and the green. If it starts getting a little opaque looking, I'm just looking at this beautiful shape. It's like a triangle shape. Whoops, too much Viridian. Put a little transparent oxide red in there too. If it starts getting too opaque, I'll take a nice dry Viva paper towel. Viva I always use because it's very soft. And I'll go like that and blot it a little bit more. See how it's a little bit transparent now? A little more transparent. I don't want to leave any edges here. Just sort of kissing the canvas. Very, very light touch. Very light touch on this, otherwise you will pick up the background. The most important tool that you use is your canvas, then your brushes, then your paints, then everything else. But most important is the canvas, because you can't lift and the way I do on this, and also the linen that I use, it's double lead primed portrait linen, same thing. It's such beautiful, smooth canvas. So right now I'm just painting part of that pot there. Not worrying about leaves. But I am worried about, of course I worry about everything. But right now the small thing I'm worried about is connecting these darks. So this is real dark in here, next to this pot. And I don't care if I have the shape right now or anything. I just want to see what it. In fact, I'll use the bigger brush for this. Still just using brown and green. This is real dark down here. I forgot what that spot is, so I'm not going to worry about it right now. But see how freeing it is to just, it doesn't matter. This is just going to be, I'm thinking about which way my brush goes a little bit, because if maybe I want to leave it. If I want to leave it, I want it to be very pretty. I want it to look very nice. So I could leave that. Over here, this part, I think I'm going to put a little more, I'm using a tiny bit of Gamsol. I think I'm going to put a little red in here. Over here where my light is, I'll just leave that. Look how pretty that is. Very pretty. I'm going to go over it so it doesn't make any difference. I'll be going over it again. I just put a little texture in there. Whoops. Okay, so. Okay, let's see. So I have this dark here. This whole area up here is going to be pretty dark. I'm going to take some Gamsol now and just. This whole area is going to be darker. I'm using the transparent oxide red and some Viridian, because I know I want this whole upper area to be nice and dark, and it's actually going through here. See, going right over where the leaves are going to be doesn't make any difference. And it's really dark in here. And then this, where'd that pansy go? Here it is. Okay, now, this pansy. I look to see. Part of that pansy. Oh, down here it's pretty dark, and over the pansy. It's here. So it's like, oh, here we go. Just, it's dark here, and then it's pretty dark in here. As long as I'm keeping the color really pretty, and it's so important to keep the color here warm. Actually, I'm going to put a little bit of green in here. Just a little bit. Oh, then, after you work in the brown and then you see the little green come in, then it's like that gets you really excited. Oh, yes, that does, right. Okay. See, I'm just going over everything. Now I can even better see how my composition looks and my design. I'm going to go down like this because I know I'm going to want this way. I know these leaves are going to come this way. I'll leave some holes there. See, these rosemary brushes, they're so soft, this brush. And I'm really using a very light touch. I'm not sure if you can tell how light I'm not pressing on this at all. This area, this value up here, I'm going to leave that value like that. But now I know I'm going to want something real dark over here. And then I'm going to step back, and here's where I want to get the angle of that pot. It's going to be pretty dark back here. Right, but see this tangent I created here, where it could be the edge of the pot? Oh no, I didn't. Never mind. I didn't do that. Sorry. Anyway, if I did do that, that would be a bad thing. You don't want to create this line of the flower going right into the pot. That wouldn't look good. But luckily I didn't do it yet. But every place I go, I'm so conscious of having things not be even, and I'm watching the level, trying to make sure I've got the level, the flowers in different levels, and when I start painting, which I'm going to avoid as long as possible, by the way, I'm going to make sure that they're going in different directions and that everything looks natural. They're not perfect. Some of them are half dead. I see some brown ones. I see, some wilted ones. And I like to put all of that in because it really makes it a much more convincing design. So something went wrong here. So I don't think that's supposed to be there like that. So I'm still thinking, oops, I lost my little red pen. Oh, I know what I lost. I lost these white ones. I'm thinking these white ones could come up high, possibly come up higher. Actually, I think it looks pretty good. I think it looks good enough that any adjustments that I still might have to make, I can do later. Because like I said, you want to paint what you set up because you took the trouble to make it as important as you want it to be and as clear as your vision was of what you wanted to paint. But on the other hand, if something's not right, I'm certainly not going to say, oh, well, I'm stuck. That's what I did, and now I can't do anything about it. If something doesn't look right later, I'm going to change it. Doesn't matter. So I want to know where the bottom of that pot is. Okay, so I already love this. I love this, and that's where you have to be. And if you don't love it, then you need to stop, and you have to think about, why don't I love this? What's wrong? Is it something, it's not a drawing issue at this point because I don't have anything drawn. It could be a temperature issue. A lot of people use a lot of cool colors when they do a wash like this, or sometimes in the class I'll start a wash with the ultramarine and transparent oxide brown for a certain subject. And then I will see somebody do it and they'll push it more towards the ultramarine and it doesn't look pretty anymore. Somehow it gets very cool. And it always, for me, it always looks prettier to see a warm wash in the background Most of this could even get covered up, but what will show through is this beautiful, transparent, warm color, and it has to be a really beautiful, beautiful color. Everything has to be beautiful color. Okay, I think this is enough to get the design going, because I really love this design. What I started to say was, if there's something that you don't think is pretty, don't keep going. Don't think, oh, it's probably all right, it'll be okay. You know, it won't. If something is bothering you at this stage, and you have to fix it, and I'm still thinking I might have a problem in this area, because this area, even though it's not the same size as this area, so that's okay, but this area I can see dealing with it easier than this area. So I'm going to choose to ignore it for the moment and hope for the best, because maybe it will be okay. But what I am going to do is, if I wind up being able to leave something like this, I don't like that I have this, I don't like what I did with my brush strokes. So I think what I'm going to do at least is make a prettier wash up there, so that in case I wind up, luckily, getting to leave it as just a quiet space, at least it'll be pretty. So I shouldn't have done that anyway in the first place. I should have left it. See how hard it is to go on top of this transparent. Oh, now it looks like a checkerboard. Whoops. Okay. Quick retrieval here. I'm not going to be able to wipe this because I'll pull it all off. So I'm going to have to blot it. So now I know I'm never going to be able to get away with leaving this. Although, wait, on the other hand, oh my God, now it looks like leather. And now I really like it. I'll probably be able to go over this with something that'll be very, very pretty. I actually like that. Okay. One of the most important things I learned from my wonderful mentor, Richard Schmidt, is even when you're painting outside and everyone thinks, so warm light, warm sunlight, cool shadows, when the innermost part of the landscape or the garden is always warm, it's more beautiful when it's really a warm color. And Richard will do that in the studio also. The inside of a flower, this very center of a flower, he'll put like alizarin and yellow or beautiful warm color right in the center, or the innermost part of the shadow, to keep it really, really warm. And you can balance it with cools, of course, but it's just it's always more beautiful to have that warm background that you can see through to. So that's why I learned that from him. And sometimes I have a tendency maybe to stay too warm, but the color is just so beautiful that I like to, that's what I like. Anyway, so now I'm going to start painting a flower, so for sure I'm going to clean this off, because I do not want to get anything contaminated here. Okay, geranium. Here we go. I'm going to take some straight cad red. I'm going to put it on. I'll use a little medium. I'm going to put it on as first of all, a geranium is not a ball, even though sometimes it looks like a ball. Most important thing with it is to keep it really irregular. If you're painting a geranium, it's a cluster of little flowers. I just want to get this a little cleaner here. So I'm going to put this on as a wash. Whoops. I'm looking at this petal up here, so I'll get that. I want to clean some of that off. I'm just going to put it on as a wash with just cad red. A little bit more. So there's a flower here, and this goes up here. I'm looking at this and seeing this is nice and irregular here. I don't want to make it even with the pot. So that's coming down this way. And then I look at that and I think, well, that's really pretty. Shape. That's all I want is the shape, and it's a pretty, pretty shape. I'm going to take a little alizarin with the cad red, a little darker. And I'm just going to paint the values. Oops. A little darker. I'm going to almost make it straight alizarin, maybe with a tiny bit of transparent oxide red in it, where I know it's going to be dark down here. Very light touch again, because of this canvas picks up. Kind of like soup that's better the next day. When you make soup, it tastes better the next day. This canvas tomorrow will be like, oh, you won't be able to stand how exciting it is to paint on it tomorrow. Okay, so I'm just making some dark value here. It's still not as dark as I want it. I want it darker than that. I put a little brown into it. I may have to get darker than that. And I'm not really going to cream my brush that good, even though I'm going into the green, because I've got all pretty warm colors here, so they'll all just blend together. But I want to make sure I get this green in here. Not quite dark enough. Oh, that's beautiful. Now I see no, I didn't lose that white flower. It's over here. Same value. Oh, that looks so beautiful. An orange one. So basically what I'm doing is I'm going to go from one little piece to another little piece. Because now I have to make sure I'm really excited again, because I need excitement in my life constantly. So I'll look at this beautiful petal. There's a beautiful edge there. So let's see if I can get it in the right place. I'm painting it actually negatively. And then it goes, I see this shape going down this way, kind of. And I'll have to fix, I actually don't know what I'm seeing anymore here, but I'll get it. But anyway, oh, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint this one little flower here so that I can get the orange one on top of it. Because the other thing that's so beautiful is that the orange one is on top of this one, and then there's a red one behind it, which is this one. So that makes, whoops, and that one is way over here someplace. I've got it in the wrong place. Now, one thing actually that happens to the best of us, especially me, is I'll wind up like, there's really only like 1, 2, 3, 4, there's only like a few flowers here. It's a pretty big geranium actually. And if I wind up and I find out that I start painting some of those flowers, and all of a sudden I have more space here that I want to fill, then I'm just going to put more flowers in there. It's like I'm certainly not going to start over. That's for sure. Never going to start over at this point too. This is another one of my favorite series. Number series 278. These are beautiful brushes too. And they make a really good point too. So I'm going to paint that flower. I'm going to paint this one right back here so that I can put the orange one in front of it. See, I can go right over that brown. I can only go over it once. Otherwise, I'm going to start picking it up and losing my pure color. But I can go right over it if I'm very gentle and soft with my colors. That wasn't quite. I'm just blending it down. Oh boy, that looks so beautiful. Okay. And then this one was like this, it came like this. The thing that will help you a lot with your drawing of flowers and the angle is if you put the little tiny center and it kind of tells you, just even if I don't leave it, it kind of tells you that I want the center way over here. And then this is going to come down here. I don't want this part, so I'm going to make that green. So what's that? That's the orange pansy. Oh yeah, here's a little low. And does it matter? Yes, that matters because it somehow got too even with this one, and I like where that one is. So I'm going to bring this pansy up here, and I think I'll paint that too. So I know it looks like I'm jumping around because I'm jumping around, but it doesn't matter if I jump around. Basically, I'm going from one thing that's getting me really excited to another thing that gets me really excited. Now I have kind of a low attention span, so I have to keep moving around. But actually, it does make sense at some level. I'll think of what that level is at some point. So this petal. Now I'm not just going to put it. I'm so sensitive to what's going on. I'm not just going to put that on as a circle, because in order for the drawing to read accurately and really pretty, I want to know where the point of that is, and the point of that puts it at an angle like this. So that petal is actually going this way. And I don't think I have the color good enough there. By the way, that was just orange and white with a little bit of, oh, look how beautiful that is. With a little bit of, something, isn't it? A little bit of, don't remember what I put in actually. And I'm putting a little bit of green here, just a little bit. Some areas like this I might fuss with. It seems like, oh my God, she's never going to get it, she's never going to finish, what the heck. And that could happen too, but other areas I'll go so fast. But you just have to be so sensitive to certain things that the things that I love, I'm going to get really, really, really sensitive and very careful. I see a much lighter spot there. I'm going to take a little lemon yellow. I mean, like, what is she doing? Are you crazy? Put a little lemon yellow with the this spot is it's so little compared to the canvas, but I still want to put it in. And then the petal behind it is orange with a little brown behind it. Okay, I want to get it right so that I don't have to change it. So I'm going to try to pay attention. What's the ideal goal is to get it right the first time, which is what Mr. Schmidt always says, just get it right the first time. Wouldn't that be wonderful if we could all get it right the first time? So I'm being very, very true to the drawing here. Put a little red in with this. Because I just like the angle of this and where how it's going. So I'm going to go like that. And then and this one comes down. So now you get the sense that this one is looking down, but it's light, a little lighter on this side. Okay. And then I'm just going to get rid of those halos around it, which I always try to avoid, but I somehow wind up doing sometimes. And this one's coming down, and I'll just brush that out. Okay. Now, one of the things I also like to look at is like, where's the stem coming from on that? Because that's something you'll also never see in the photo. Because to me, it's important where the stem's coming through, because it's just interesting to have them going in all different directions. So just as a reminder, I'm going to go like that so I remember where it's coming from. Now, the one that was going over the red one is that's what okay, this is really, now this is so perfect. Oh my gosh, this one, so this stem is coming this way, then this stem can logically go this way. So everyone knows, so that it can land on this flower. And then the thing that I loved so much, remember, about when I started, was all those little ones here. So this is the kind of thing that if I was doing a demo where I only had an hour and a half or 2 hours just for a study, I wouldn't worry about stuff like this, painting all of that. I can always do that later. I can set that up again, or from the photo, because I have so much experience painting from life, and I know I'm a very avid gardener myself, so I know what everything looks like and what it does, and you know, I can just make that up pretty much. So I think what I'm going to do, first of all, I got a little sidetracked again, but don't worry, I'll get back there in about 2 seconds. I'll be back there. I want to go over this area here just for the value, and then I'm going to pull those orange flowers back out, because I might as well utilize, maybe I'll get away with not having to. Okay, so now I have to be very careful about this line. Is a little straight, but that's okay. That's easy to fix later. So, but I want to get that one little orange flower that's right on top of the red one, because it's just so pretty. And I'm going to get it out of there. Now I'm going to take one of the little ivory brushes. I stopped using the ivory brushes for a little while. I don't even know why, but now I just love them again. I use them so much. I'm going to pull this out. So I'm drawing basically with a clean brush and turpentine. Why? I don't know, because I am. So now I'm going to put the orange in. Well, because I do know why, because I wanted to get the brown off there and the red. So I've got this beautiful orange is going to go right on top of the red. Okay, so that, and then it's like a little butterfly this way, and then, whoops, and it's a little darker. That got a little too red. Okay, I don't even know what that is. So I'll get it there.
New from Lilydale Art Video, Painting Flowers in the Studio with Kathy Anderson. Painting flowers is one of the most challenging subjects for a painter, yet one of the most rewarding, because your favourite flowers can hang on the wall year round. The challenge is to make them realistic and painterly at the same time. Now, for the first time, you can watch master flower painter Kathy Anderson at work, from start to finish on video. You'll see the care she takes in selecting and arranging her florals, how she creates her composition, and her step-by-step process of creating a lovely painting from start to finish. Plus, you'll see an in-depth interview with Kathy to understand more about her motivation, her time with the Putney painters, and her influences Richard Schmid and Everett Raymond Kinsler, and a video exhibit of her work. Soon you'll understand the principles of making flower paintings come alive, and you'll see a vast improvement in your own paintings. Order yours today. Another excellent art experience from Lilydale Art Instruction Video.
I hope you enjoyed how to paint flowers in the studio with Kathy Anderson. Now let's learn a little bit more about her in an interview. Hi, I'm Eric Rhodes, publisher of Fine Art Connoisseur magazine and Plein Air magazine. Today we're here with one of the preeminent floral painters in the world, Kathy Anderson. Kathy, let's get started. Tell me a little bit about your childhood as an artist.
I was not nurtured as an artist as a child, but I always remember being a very introverted child where I would play with little things in the dirt, and I would make little things out of whatever, and of course I remember drawing, but all of us that paint remember drawing as a child, I think. But I did not grow up in an artistic family, but I grew up in a really musical family where I was surrounded. My father was a musician as a hobby, and I was surrounded by a lot of activity in a creative way, but not in art. And I can remember all through elementary school doing nothing but playing with little toys in my desk, and I didn't have a lot of friends. And going into middle school and then into high school was when I actually first started painting. And when it was time for me to graduate from high school, I hadn't even applied to college, and I didn't even know what I was going to do with my life at that time. This was a long time ago. So I remember saying, well, I'm good at art, so I guess I'll go to art school. And I actually went to SUNY Farmingdale and studied advertising art, and was terrible at it. I didn't like it at all. Airbrushing staplers, and one little spit out of your mouth, and that's the end of that project. Where the stapler is, you throw that one away. And so I hated it, and I didn't even finish. I never went into the advertising field at all. But at that point I went on, and art was always in my life. I always did crafty kinds of things, and when I was married and I had my two children, I have two boys. I was working in watercolors at the time. I used to paint animals for the most part, and I started doing outdoor shows a little bit, and I got into a couple of small galleries, but it was nothing totally full-time because I did have my children. And from there, I guess I went to, when my oldest son was in high school, I started painting the backdrops he went into the theater department, and I started painting the backdrops. The first backdrop I did from little watercolors was a 20 by 40 foot backdrop for West Side Story, which I didn't do by myself, of course, but this monstrous thing. I've always been the kind of person that, it doesn't matter if I don't know how to do it. If somebody asks me to do it, I just say, okay, I can do that, and then I just figure it out how to do it. So I started painting the backdrops for the sets, and from there I started a mural business because I was at an outdoor show, and two women asked me if I could paint giant murals in their store that they were opening, and of course once again I said sure. So I had a mural business, and I had that business for probably about 7 years. I studied in England, in Cornwall, with Janet Shearer, who is a really prominent mural artist in England, and I was in that business for about 7 years, and at that time I was working in oils. I guess I started working in oils before the mural business, and then all of a sudden I did an outdoor show one time, and when I went to pick up my paintings, the women that were at the show said to me, you're not going to believe who bought one of your paintings, and it was Richard Schmidt. And that's how I met Richard Schmidt, and I'm so honored that he did that, and it began the next entire phase of my life, which has been just a remarkable journey thanks to him.
So certainly you had some early influences in art. What were they?
So, well, I guess while I was still working in watercolors, the first course I ever took was with Frank Federico, who's a very prominent Connecticut artist. And I can remember the very first time I was in a class with him, and Frank set up this still life with plastic lilacs that were covered with dust, and that was our still life. And I was a brand new artist, and I said, I can't paint that. Actually, what this segues into is what my philosophy and which I believe in totally is that you have to paint what you love. And even then, before I knew practically anything, I'm looking at it and I'm like, I can't paint that. And he was like, of course you can paint that. An artist can transform their subject and can paint. It's about the paint. And for me, it was never that. It was always like, oh my God, how can I paint those lilacs with dust on them and they're plastic? So anyway, but Frank was a wonderful teacher, actually, and I did learn a lot from him. And from him, I guess that I studied with a few local Connecticut artists that were, Kirill Duran, Charles Ray. But from there, I think I pretty much went right into, that's when I was involved with the theater at the school, and then I went into meeting Richard. So those would be my early influences.
We all have a painting or two that spoke to us at a younger age. What was it, what piece of art inspired you as an artist?
It was before I was really painting, and it was a gigantic painting of daffodils and all yellow. I just remembered it was all yellow. It was daffodils and pansies or whatever it was. It was just this gigantic, just at some show somewhere by no one person, no one I had ever heard of or anything. And I just remember saying, oh my God, how can anyone do that with paint? It's just so beautiful. And because I've always been drawn to flowers in the garden. I am a gardener. My mother was an avid gardener. So that's the piece of art that I remember thinking, wow, if I could ever paint something like that. And of course, I've done a million paintings like that since. Maybe not even thinking about that one, but I have done a million paintings like that since of yellow, really, basically. But as far as in museums, I couldn't never pinpoint. There's so many million paintings that I love so much.
Tell me about the steps in your career path.
When I started painting with Richard, after I met him and introduced myself and thanked him so much for buying my painting, and I said, he said he painted with this group in Vermont, and they had just started. This was the Putney Painters. And I said, would it be all right if I came up and painted with you? And he goes, please, come up and join us. And I thought it was a workshop, but it wasn't, because Richard doesn't really teach at that point in his life. He used to, of course. But so I went up there, and that's when I found out, I met all these unbelievable painters. And then of course I realized even more how much I didn't know, which I already knew how much I didn't know, but it was like the learning that started from that point was just, that was the biggest pivotal point in my life, I have to say. Career paths, if that's the question, I think the mural business is one thing that changed my life. Meeting Richard was, of course, the biggest. And then doing my first Plein Air show, probably about 10 years ago, was another thing that completely changed my life, because I had never entered one of the plein air competitions before. And when I went out to Telluride, I got into the Telluride show, and oh my God, that transformed me so much as an artist to paint under those conditions where you have to go out and get something as quickly as you can and get something really good and focus on just what's important to make a beautiful painting in a short amount of time and then sell them. But just for me, I paint from life, I would say 90% of the time, as much as I possibly can. But for me, to go out there to put my gear on my back and hike up, a mountain and not that I hike very far, but it's like I feel like almost like I'm really earning this painting, and the energy of being out there with the elements and seeing everything and trying to focus in on something that you're so excited about. And for me, when I go out west, for example, I don't I'm not a mountain painter. I'm more of an intimate subject painter. I think I'm probably gone beyond that question, but I'm not sure if it makes any difference. But
so how did you learn to paint?
I always say before I met Richard, I did some nice work. I did nice work, but I fought to get there. It was such a struggle. One of my favorite quotes is, "Through knowledge comes freedom." Don't know who said it, but it doesn't matter. And painting and how did I learn? I don't know. I think there is innate ability in some people, but I absolutely believe that anyone can be taught to draw. It's just a logical skill that you can be taught. Can everyone draw like Richard or like, Leonardo da Vinci? Maybe not. But anyone can learn the skill of drawing and painting. And I struggled and got to a beautiful painting often, although of course if I look back at those now I probably wouldn't think they were so beautiful anymore. But anyone can, I would get to a beautiful painting, but I never knew how I was getting there, and it was agony and such a struggle. And I'm certainly not saying that I'm not going through agony right now, because I'm going through agony right now all the time, but the knowledge that I have now has made it so joyful. One of my favorite quotes that Richard says, I know I quote Richard a lot, I hope but he said, it's up to us to choose whether we want the aimless struggle or the satisfaction of oh my God, I forgot the quote. Do we want the aimless struggle or the joy of problem solving? That's what it is. You can choose. It's up to you to choose the joy of problem solving or to take the path of the aimless struggle. And the joy of problem solving, I'm starting to get the joy, but when you have the knowledge and the skill, and especially when you learn to draw, which is the most important thing in the world for anything, it just allows you to, it gives you the freedom to grow more as an artist.
What is it that takes an artist from being average to being excellent?
I see this in so many people all the time, and it has to start with the passion, that they have to do it. They want it so badly. And I know so many artists that I've seen go from being totally unskilled to being really accomplished. And a lot of them are in our Putney painters. And you can just see they want it so badly, and they have that passion, and then they have that discipline, and they put the hours in, and they work and work and work. Studying with somebody, I am so blessed that I'm studying with Richard. I'm also very blessed that I have a very close friendship with Everett Raymond Kinsler. I never studied with Everett, but we were very good friends, and just listening, I have so much knowledge that I've gotten from him just listening to him talking about the great illustrators that he just reveres, and Sargent, and I have all this knowledge that pours into me all the time, and you have to do the work. You just have to do the work.
What do artists need to be able to do to grow as an artist?
First of all, you have to learn to draw. That's absolutely, absolutely the most important. And I've been teaching for probably about 3 or 4 years. I've been teaching. I really only came to teaching late, I guess. And so many times I hear a student say, well, I know how to draw, and well, drawing isn't a problem for me, and it usually is. And if everything falls apart if you don't have the drawing skills. So that's the first thing, is to learn to draw. I think it's very important to study with somebody whose work you love. But I don't believe in going to workshop after workshop after workshop, because I think I think it's really good to study with somebody, maybe once or twice or 3 times, and then just work on what you learn from that one person for however long it takes to absorb that, and maybe then go on. Sometimes if you go to one instructor after another, so many different people, there's no rules. I don't think there's any rules in art. So you're going to get this from this person, this from that person, and all you do is make your head spin. I don't think you get anywhere from that.
Well, you have to have the fundamentals first, right?
Absolutely. I think that if you take somebody who becomes an abstract painter, but they never learn their fundamentals, they never learn to draw, then I can't, then you don't have design, you don't have a design sense, I don't think. Well, I guess maybe some people do. I don't want to say never, I won't say that. But that's where there's so much well, with music, for example, I am a musician, and I studied jazz for I went to jazz camp for 7 years, and I learned all these scales and I learned all these chords, but once they're in it, I'm a slow learner, and I late in life played the piano my whole life, but it came to me late in life to learn this music theory, and I can say that by the time finally some of it is sinking into my head, and it's the same thing again. Through knowledge comes freedom. If you want to improvise in jazz, if you don't have all that knowledge in your head, if you're Errol Garner, that's fine. But if you don't have some of the fundamental knowledge in your head, it's how do you sound? How do you make an excellent sound and a beautiful sound if you can't draw, if you don't know, if you don't know what edges are, you don't know what temperature is, you don't know the fundamentals of what makes a beautiful painting. What makes a painting beautiful? What do you respond to? What do you love so much when you look at a painting?
Your paintings tend to be loose and abstract, yet they have a lot of energy. How do you get to that point?
Painting from life, being madly, passionately in love with what I'm about to paint, and that is so important. I go outside and I have a painting here of roses and an immense rose garden. You go out there and you look at this rose garden and you think, or this huge hedge of roses, and you think, how do you make sense out of this? And I'm learning, so it's so exciting that I've learned how to create a beautiful path and design and movement out of something that looks like chaos, just from my design that I've learned, the design skills that I've learned. But I don't, it takes me a long time when I go out painting outside to find my subject. I'll walk around, or even if I know I'm going to paint this hedge of roses, it'll take me a long time to figure out which ones am I going to paint, and until something says to me, oh my God, that's it. I have to have that moment where it's like I know this is it. Same thing when I'm setting up a still life in my studio. If you came to the Putney Painters, you'd laugh at all of us setting up still lifes. Everybody's in their own little space, setting up a still life and moving a branch 2 inches, moving a leaf an inch, moving and sitting back and looking. And this is what we've learned so much from Richard, really, and Nancy, of course, my dear friend Nancy, his wife. You have to be so excited about what you're going to paint that you just start shaking. You can't wait to start painting, that you're so excited.
Kathy, what is it that grabs your eye and tells you that's it?
Instead of flowers, I'll talk about like when I go out west and I'm painting like in the landscape, because as I said, I know I love to paint aspen trees. I know I'm still looking for a flower here and there. I love to paint waterfalls. So I'll go and I'll look at a waterfall, for example. So I see if I could point to a painting, it would be easy. But if I'll go to, for example, in Hidden Falls out in by Jenny Lake in Wyoming, I'll go to the waterfall and I'm walking up and down the waterfall and up and down the rocks and looking and waiting until I see that beautiful white running water against the darkest rock, or some kind of a pattern. I'm looking for patterns. I'm looking for value contrast. I'm looking for the movement. For me, is the most important part. That's something that I think I strive for in all my paintings, is to create a movement so that you really feel like you're out there and everything's moving and you can see what I'm feeling and what I'm so excited about. It comes back to, for me, I have to paint what I'm really, really excited about, and I get excited about a lot of stuff. So flowers, water, grass, animals, whatever. But
Kathy, if you could choose any artist from history who's not living, who would that be and what would you ask him?
Everybody would say, because of course we all love Sargent and Zorn and Sorolla but I would pick a wildlife artist, and actually the one I would probably pick, and he only died a few years ago and I never met him, is Bob Coons, who painted wildlife that I've never been so moved by. I love animals. It's a huge passion for me. And the way he paints animals, I saw he had a whole huge retrospective show at the Wildlife Museum in Jackson a couple of years ago that I saw, and I went back to see it like 3 times. And oh God, his animals are just, they're so sensitive, and they're so beautiful the way he paints them, and they're ready to leap, or they're just sleeping, or they're just, I would love to talk to him about how he, I'm sure I know, I've read about how he captures them because he studied them his whole life, painted from life his whole life. But just the way he paints them is just so beautiful to me. I think that's who I would like to talk to. And he only died a couple of years ago. And I know one of my closest friends, Stephanie Birdsall, knew him, and Carol Swinney, she knew him. So I probably could have met him, a few years ago. But
do you have a favorite living artist?
Richard Schmidt, Nancy Guzik, Everett Raymond Kinsler, Dennis Sheehan, Jeremy Lipking, Sue Lyon, Michelle Dunaway, Sherry McGraw, all my friends. I better stop because I'm going to leave somebody out. Every one of them paints paintings that just move you when you look at them. You look at them and you respond on a level that's just beyond. Nancy Guzik, she's just incomparable.
Kathy, what is it you haven't done? Something you really aspire to?
Just to keep growing. Every time I finish a painting, I think, oh my God, next time I'm going to do this. Next time I can't wait to start the next one, to know that I'm going to, I'm going to the Tetons this summer I'm one of the Rocky Mountain Plein Air painters. And I can't wait to go and see if I can be better this summer. If I can find my focal point faster and get a good painting. I don't do a lot of plein air shows like all my friends out west. I have so many wonderful friends out there, and they paint and they do show after show, and they're such wonderful painters, all of them. They get it the first time, they get it fast, and I'm not like that. I usually have to go back to my subject a couple of times. But so this summer I think, well, this time I'm going to get it the first time. But if not this summer, next summer.
So is there an ultimate painting you want to do?
I really want to start painting animals again a lot, basically. I started off painting animals, birds and deer and my local, the local animals. And I have started, actually. I have a lot of birds in my paintings now, and I've painted, I want to paint more animals. I guess that's all.
What advice do you have for someone who is just starting out, a young artist or someone who has just started painting?
Try to find somebody really good to study with. And of course, go to museums, go to galleries, and I guess let me backtrack. Be true to yourself is the first thing. Just be really true to yourself. It's really important if you go into a gallery or a museum and look at paintings, and try to really realize what makes you respond to a painting. Why do I love this so much? What is it about it? Is it the subject? Is it the values? Is it the color? And whatever that is, that's probably what you should try to translate into your own work. Am I somebody who really likes to work on values, to see value contrasts? For me, I love value patterns, value contrasts, and color, of course. But if you recognize what you love in other work, whether it's old masters or contemporary people, that's probably what you would like to paint, and then just be totally true to yourself, and then get the fundamentals down. And is it Woody Allen that said, and show up? Show up. It's really important to get to know people, to go to openings, to be, meet other artists. Networking it's a lot of fun. If it doesn't come easy to you and you're not comfortable with it, then it's probably not a good idea. But for me, it's fun. But you've got to put the hours in. You've got to do the work, and there's no shortcuts. It takes a long time. I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and I'm certainly not satisfied. Once you're satisfied, you're finished. That's it. If you think you're there, you'll never be there. That's what I think.
What do you see in your work?
What do I see? Oh my gosh. I see how much I love these flowers. I see how much I was madly in love with that blue bowl when I painted it, and those deer that were down in my woods that I painted from the back. I saw how excited I was when I saw those deer. That goat, I was in that goat pen I was in Guatemala 2 weeks ago with that goat. I guess just my love of everything that I paint.
What are you passionate about?
I guess I'm very lucky that I have a lot of things that I'm very passionate about, and our family, my one son lives in Guatemala, and he's a very different person, but he's an amazing creative person. And my younger son is a builder who built my incredible studio, and he's an amazing artist himself. And my husband, who when he retired, makes all my frames for me. He was a master woodworker, and now he makes all my frames, does gold leafing. So our whole family has been immersed in a creative lifestyle, I guess, and I'm just very lucky to be surrounded by, I have a lot of energy for things that I love, and I love a lot of things, and I think I'm very lucky that I love so many things that I get excited about. That It's a very lucky way to be, that there's always something out there that I can't wait to do or see or paint.
Thank you, Kathy. This has really been great. Kathy Anderson is one of the most fun and exuberant people I know. I've learned so much from her and from this video, How to Paint Flowers in the Studio with Kathy Anderson. You can learn more about it at lilyartvideo.com. Keep on painting. Keep on learning, keep on growing. I'm Eric Rhodes.
New from Lilydale Art Video, Painting Flowers in the Studio with Kathy Anderson. Painting flowers is one of the most challenging subjects for a painter, yet one of the most rewarding, because your favourite flowers can hang on the wall year round. The challenge is to make them realistic and painterly at the same time. Now, for the first time, you can watch master flower painter Kathy Anderson at work, from start to finish on video. You'll see the care she takes in selecting and arranging her florals, how she creates her composition, and her step-by-step process of creating a lovely painting from start to finish. Plus, you'll see an in-depth interview with Kathy to understand more about her motivation, her time with the Putney painters, and her influences Richard Schmid and Everett Raymond Kinsler, and a video exhibit of her work. Soon you'll understand the principles of making flower paintings come alive, and you'll see a vast improvement in your own paintings. Order yours today. Another excellent art experience from Lilydale Art Instruction Video.